Greetings, how are you this evening? I'll talk to you today about family court and civil courts and family and other like-kind civil courts that operate under statutes. Their orders and judgments are void. And I'm about to tell you why, okay? This is so important. It's fundamentals, all right? It's 101. There's one obstacle they can't overcome, all right? And in the commercial realm, there's many ways that you can mess with these people. They don't have a delegation of authority to operate outside of Washington, D.C. They need to answer who colored them with the authority, because remember, in order to have any authority over you, they have to be what? First blessed with consent by you to be governed, okay? And what they are practicing is actually deviling, manipulation and twisting of the language in order to get your consent. It's a really fucked up thing, but that's just what it is. And forgive me for cussing all the time. I know I shouldn't be cursing. Casting curses out there is wrong. I'm rude, crude, and socially screwed from my upbringing. It wasn't by my family or the village that I was around, but mainly because I grew up in construction most of my life, predominantly, okay? There's one obstacle they can't overcome. They're not a court of record, okay? And what is a court of record? A court of record is a judicial tribunal having attributes and exercising function independently of the person of the magistrate designated generally to hold it, okay? And proceeding according to the course of common law. It acts upon proceedings being enrolled for a perpetual memorial. That's Jones versus Jones, okay? Also found at Gladhill 8, Massachusetts, 171. And again, we find it cited once more in Ludwig versus Roscoe's. Any court proceeding according to statutory law is not a court of record, which we're entitled to a court of record, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where the 12 presumptions of law assist you and help you out. Because the 12 presumptions of law, we're rebutting the fact that it's a private bar guild matter, and we're now pulling it into the public record, okay? So it's no longer a private business affair where they're doing banking. That's what they're doing in the commercial sector. It's banking, because all crimes are commercial under CFR 277211, all right? Which only proceeds according to the common law. Now, it's important to realize that after 1935, the common law that they speak of is the law that is common to the judges in the establishment for administering the bankruptcy of the United States. Capiche? We all on the same level here? That which is laid down, ordained, or established. Coing versus Flynn, 258 New York, 292. All right, I won't bore you with all the numbers that come with it. Number 2, respondents conspired under color of law in a nisi prius and de facto operation. So Title 18 USC 241. If 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right. Unalienable rights, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't know what they are, Lord, help me show you some of your rights. And I'm just going to go off the cuff right now. I'm going to explain a story to you that happened to me with firsthand knowledge in a court. It was me and the judge, wit against wit. And I'm sure he thought I was a nitwit because at that time I was still a boy and not quite a man yet. Getting there, but I just wasn't quite there. And he says, I'm going to read you your rights, okay? Is that okay, Mr. Gonzalez? And of course, I'm like, oh, we're going to be here a while, Judge. He goes, excuse me? I said, well, if you're going to read me my rights, boy, oh boy. I mean, I've got a right to urinate, defecate, masticate, masturbate. I mean, I got a right to breathe. I got a right to shower. I mean, there's a lot of rights here, Judge. Well, I'm just going to read the rights that pertain to this instant, okay? That's the kind of flack you're going to get. That's the kind of resistance you're going to get. Anytime you try to stand on sound principles, they're going to use what's known in their profession as deviling, a manipulation of the situation to lead you to believe that somehow they're superior to you because they're sitting 4 foot off the ground and they're above you, lording over you. But when you know in your heart and your spirit that all men are created equal, you can quickly get rid of that facade. All those different planes, all those boxes that they have in the courtroom are for a specific reason. One, psychologically. Two, they have mystical and magical powers in their commercial realm, all right? For example, the military code, anything that's in a box or a circle isn't on the page. Anything in brackets doesn't exist. Everything in all capital letters is just an artwork. It's a piece of art. It doesn't actually mean anything. But due to our cognitive dissonance, we believe, because the way that we've been indoctrinated to believe in authority, that what they're doing is true and correct and that they would never do us any wrong, okay? Our founding fathers walked away from Europe to come here with a set of sound principles, all right? And those principles were to no longer be deceived by people who believed to have authority over them, right? They specifically wrote into the Constitution that no men in the military forces shall be provided safe sanctuary and harbored in your home, whether in time of war or not. And you got to understand why that was. When they finally left Europe and came this direction, that's the stuff that was happening there. People were being murdered in their own home without just cause, okay, by the sheriffs, the shires at that time. Okay, the king was overzealous, and if he didn't like you on his land for which he held allodium, then he removed you from it. Okay, and so coming over here was very important to them, and they used a bunch of sound principles right out of the good book, to ensure that tyrannical behavior could be stifled and snuffed out should it rear its ugly head again. And ladies and gentlemen, I can't imagine it being too much different back then than what it is now, okay? So stay with me on this, because what I feel and what I know, feeling's not necessarily that important, but what I know to be true here is there are innocent, unarmed, and unarmed men and women and children being shot by agents and agency that aren't going to jail for murder, ladies and gentlemen. That's an atrocity, okay? That's egregious, considering that the United States bombs men, women, and children in other countries that are completely unarmed, all right? Does that sound like something spiritually and morally you want to be connected to? I sure the heck don't, all right? So back to rights, back to Title 18, USC 241. Having so exercised the same, or if two or more persons go in disguise on the highway, listen to this, in disguise on the highway, you believe that somebody with a shiny badge and a pair of slacks and a blue shirt is a cop. In the United States, we had sheriffs and peace officers. Now in the United States of America, we had sheriffs and peace officers. In the U.S., under military martial law, we have agents and agency that are private for-profit contractors that are out there enforcing statutes, codes, city ordinances, and provisions on lawful men and women who are well within their right to exercise their unalienable rights to the right of locomotion, the right to be an elector, not a voter, an elector, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody's out here running around going, I'm voting, I'm voting. You should be ashamed of yourself. What you should be saying is, this year instead of voting, I'm gonna make sure I'm in a position that people in the alleged government know that I'm an elector, all right? I'm not a voter, I'm not subject to them, I am the commanding force, right? So there's a difference there. If two or more persons go in disguise on the highway, or on the premises of another, with intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured. How was that right and privilege secured, ladies and gentlemen? Through a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we're pissing it down our leg. All these people that allegedly went to Vietnam to fight for our freedom, right? And here we are being derelict in our duty because freedom isn't free. And although they paid the ultimate price, we're suffering due to our lack of knowledge. Okay, these agents and agency work for a corporation under Title 28, 3002, 15A. and they're absolutely liable for all of their actions. Now, why I like the private administrative process is because so often in their commercial courts, the administrators will not allow you to fleece their agents. Why? Because you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you. And what I mean by that is the judges and lawyers need those ignorant agents and agency out there harassing, badgering, and serving the shit out of you. And when I say serving you, I mean serving you. Serving you with documentation, serving you with summonses, serving you with tickets. That's the kind of service that they're talking about. And they're not about to slap around the hand that feeds them, because these judges and lawyers aren't going to go out there and do citizen's arrest all day long and bring up charges against you for violating another man. No, 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 no. Worse off. Worse off than actually doing something that would be productive in society, because it wouldn't pay good enough. There's not enough of us that are criminals. Let's be honest, right? So instead what they do is they create these statutes, codes, city ordinances, and provisions and lead you to believe that they apply to you as a man. They don't. So hear me. 2 or more people in disguise on the highway accosting you against your will, absent a victim, makes you the victim and them the assailant. Period. And it's a trespass causing you harm because they're violating your unalienable right to locomotion to go from one place to the other completely unimpeded, uninhibited. Does that make sense to you? I hope this is resonating in your mind. I'm going to tell you how you can do this, how you can effectually put this to use. This should be taught in every high school. This should be taught in every college. This should be taught in every grade school. You should have learned this at home. Instead of being indoctrinated to respect authority, you should have been taught how you are the authority and how you shall conduct yourself, and that you're there to do good works, right? To better yourself, your community, and the environment that's around you. If 2 or more persons go in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another with the intent, there's that word, intent, to prevent or hinder his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured, they shall be fined under this title. Now that's on their end. On our end, on the private side, we could submit and hold our own court by privately administering a process utilizing either the USPS or a private process server, and we can serve them with the harm that they've caused us by way of trespass, by way of extortion, by way of theft, by way of debt. But in order to have a debt, you first would have to have a bill. So debt comes a little bit later after they shirk their responsibility because they're really not that bright, okay? And this is a way you don't hurt the public when you do this. See, if you take them in the commercial venue, and I know this from firsthand experience, I was going to sue a county for about $25 million, and I was well within my right to do it, and I absolutely could have prevailed. I didn't, and here's one of the things that crossed my mind. In the event that I brought suit and I prevailed, which I would have, no questions asked, I found out that it wasn't the man who actually committed the wrong against me that would suffer. It was the people in the community whose property taxes would have went up because I would have made it an insurance claim. And in order to keep that county insured, their insurance would have went up. Just like a car collision, ladies and gentlemen. You have a couple fender benders, all of a sudden, whoop, hey, no big deal. You're just going to pay an extra 35, 40%. Where do you think they get that extra 35 to 40%, ladies and gentlemen? From the community. And meanwhile, the officer who's in breach of his fiduciary duty, breach of his public oath, breach of public policy, and violated my rights, nevertheless, nothing happens to him. In fact, he just got promoted to being a sergeant in the county where he was actively being a tyrant and a criminal, completely negating his oath of office to uphold and defend and protect the Constitution for the United States of America and the state of Nebraska. All right? So on the commercial side, you're not so often going to find remedy because these judges in these lower state courts, that's who feeds them. That's how they're building these amazing retirement plans. All right? But here we go. In his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if the death results from the acts committed in violation of this section or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, they shall be fined under this title. An attempt to kill. Doesn't even have to actually succeed, just an attempt. They shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life or both, or may be sentenced to death. You know, the problem in this great nation is it's been a long time since one of these people has actually been put to death while enforcing statutes, codes, city ordinances, and provisions. All right? You string up a couple judges, I'll tell you right now, tomorrow Frank be calling Mark. Frank, you going to work? Nah, man, I don't feel so good. I got 57 cases before me, and I know these people are innocent. I'm afraid they'll show up with a saddle horn. It's the truth. Nisi prius is a Latin term, Bovier's Law Dictionary. If you don't have Bovier's Law Dictionary, make sure to go acquire it. You can find it freely on the internet. I also have it in my own library, all right? Bovier's Law Dictionary, there's a series of volumes. Where courts bearing this name exist in the United States, they are instituted by statutory provisions, color of law. Black's fifth, prius, means first. Nisi means unless. A nisi prius procedure is a procedure to which a party first agrees unless he objects. Now hear me out. The presence of the body waives the error in the name if you do not appear by special appearance. You are a man, not a defendant. A defendant, a plaintiff, and a witness all have one thing in common. I hope you're listening. They're all fictions, period. That's all commercial horsepucky, all right? So, by you being there, the error in the name is gone. By you pleading or taking a plea deal, now you've entered into contract and there's no such fucking thing as an appeal. And any lying, looting, pandering piece of shit lawyer that tells you you can appeal a case after acquiring his services is completely full of shit and absolutely ludicrous. All right? I'm being honest with you. I'll be as real as I fucking can because I've been through the trenches. I've been through the trials of the fire and the ice. I've been burnt. I've been scorched. I've walked on hot coals going through these court cases, all right? And it's absolutely mind-numbing and bending and frustrating. You want to talk about pissed off? Boy, I'll tell you what. And if it wasn't for the Heavenly Creator in that good book, I'm telling you, that King James 1611 Bible, when you start studying this, your reference guide for morality needs to be put in check. And you need to go check out that King James 1611 Bible. In the parables, in the written parables, between the lines are the lessons to be learned in that book. I can't stress it to you enough. And it tells you not everybody has the eyes to see it. Not everybody has the ears to hear it. I'm going to tell you, I was very, very fortunate and very blessed to be touched. Very fortunate. And he will find you. You won't find him. It don't work that way. And it's inside of each and every one of us, okay? It's an inner conscience. It's a supreme being, mind, body, spirit, and soul. It gives me goosebumps talking about it, guys. When you realize that no man has a right to tell another man what to do, absent a crime, absent a victim, absent an injury, period, and that we always want to remain in honor with dignity and respect, okay? If I'm driving down the road and I've had 2 beers, which I do not condone drinking and driving, I'm going to tell you that right now, I don't condone it. I don't agree with it. If I see you getting in a car after been drinking, I'm going to offer you a ride. Please don't take offense to it. I'm going to offer you a ride to make sure you get home. I'll walk home from there. I don't give a shit. But that's just me. All right? I don't like drinking and driving. But let's just say I had 2 beers, and I hit Ned's mailbox on the way home. Now, I know that I hit Ned's mailbox. Ned doesn't know it yet because he's sleeping. But tomorrow morning, I get up and I go down there and I go, Ned, I hit your mailbox. I caused your property injury, harm, damage, and loss, and I'd like to remedy that situation by putting that mailbox up for you. Would you allow me to do that? Or would you like me to hire somebody to do that for you? Because I'm at fault here. Okay, that's honor, integrity, dignity, respect, right? And I've provided remedy. I've admitted my fault, my wrong, and I'm ready to provide remedy in any way I can. If he just wants FRN notes, I give him FRN notes. If he wants a little bit of silver, I give him a little bit of silver. Whatever it takes to make that situation whole, right? So when somebody accuses you of doing something wrong, you're supposed to agree with thine adversary quickly. Now, I have a hard time with that. When I read that in that book, boy, I was hot. Thinking to myself, God, why would you tell me to agree with somebody when I ain't done nothing wrong? Why am I supposed to agree? Because you're supposed to conditionally accept their offer upon proof of their claim. He who makes the claim has the onus of probandi and the burden of proof. In court, on the commercial side, you will notice that the state is bringing a claim, and the state's attorney, known as and identified as the district attorney without power of attorney from a real client, okay, a man or woman, is making a claim against a nom de guerre. For example, my name, my Christian appellation and calling is Derek Chaton. The last name Gonzalez belongs to the Roman Vatican, okay? It's not mine. It's a family thing they allege, and we've adopted it, but it's really not us. Jesus was Jesus of Nazareth, right? When you look, Paul and his disciples, there was no last name, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So the last name is something that was created so they could attach this commercial fiction to everything. And then we're utilizing it and we're attaching ourselves to it as surety. I want to get back into this before I get too far off. So, nisi prius is a Latin term, Bovier's Law Dictionary, where courts bearing this name exist in the United States. They are instituted by statutory provisions, not law, statutory provisions. Black Law's 5th edition. Prius means first, and nisi means unless. A nisi prius procedure is a procedure to which a party first agrees unless he objects. All right, you've got to assert yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Black's Law, 4th edition, a rule of procedure in court is that if a party fails to object to something, then it means he agrees to it. All right, silence is agreeance by tacit acquiescence. All right, now that only exists in the commercial world. And I once ran a judge off the bench, and this is how I did it. This is, again, common sense, logic, and reason speaking in a commercial venue, showing the absolute lunacy in their ideology, all right? And the judge said, well, Derek, you agreed to it. How did I agree to it? She said, well, you didn't object to it, so you agreed to it. And I looked at her and I said, so you mean to tell me a dumb, blind, deaf, mute girl goes to a party, has a few beers with a few fellas, and the fellas decide to take advantage of her, and because she doesn't say no, stop, don't, it wasn't fucking rape? She turned peaked, she got up, and she walked right off that damn bench. That's logic, ladies and gentlemen. Any man, woman, child knows that that scenario is absolutely heinous, and it's absolutely fucking wrong. Wrong, okay? That's equity. Showing them the fault and the error in their ways, all right? And you got to be real, because if you're not real when you go in there, they're going to walk through you like a hot knife through butter. They're gonna throw you in jail because you will willfully sign documentation allowing them to monetize your good name. You will sign bonds. You'll call your friends and your family to bring stuff. Let it be known, if you take this path, you will go to jail at some point. It's a fact. You're going there, all right? So get it out of your system, because they use torture, mental, physical, and otherwise, to enforce their will upon you, to break your will, to break your faith in Him, the Most High, okay? And now I point up, and that's a mistake, because it's right here. It's all in you, the higher conscience. They're trying to get you to waver your knowledge with conviction. They're trying to get you to step away from that and fall back in line with their treachery and their lies. And that's really what they're doing, okay? Black's Law, 4th edition, a rule of procedure in courts is that if a party fails to object to something, then it means he agrees to it. A nisi procedure is a procedure to which a person has failed to object. A nisi prius court is a court which will proceed unless a party objects. The agreement to proceed is obtained from the parties first. Okay, so you're accepting it by just showing up, by not objecting, by not asserting yourself, by not speaking in a timely manner. A thing that is called latches is starting to occur. Remember, equity doesn't aid a volunteer, and if you're going in there and you're not asserting yourself, equity also does not. A man who slumbers on his rights doesn't have any. All right, that's basically what it boils down to. So become learned so you can handle these affairs. Let's talk about de facto. De facto, in fact, indeed, actually, this phrase is used to characterize an officer, a government, a past action, or a state of affairs which must be accepted for all practical purposes, but is legal or legitimate. In this sense, it is the contrary of de jure. Okay, a de jure government is a true form of government, right? Where the de facto is a corporation, which means they resemble government, but they're not government. Just like the Federal Reserve kind of resembles what the U.S. Mint and Treasury were supposed to be doing, but they're not the U.S. Treasury, all right? And they're not federal. Thus, an officer, king, or government de facto is one who is in actual possession of the office or supreme power, but by usurpation or without lawful title, while an officer, king, or governor de jure is one who has just claim and rightful title to the office or power, but has never had plenary possession of it, okay? Plenary possession of it. Or is not in actual possession. That's 4BL Common 7778, Macleod, Macleod versus United States, 229, U.S. Supreme Court, 41633. And also found in Wheatley versus Consolidated Lumber Company. And so I hope this helps you out a little bit to ascend to the mind and really see what's going on. One, understand that first and foremost, you are a man, okay? And you were created in the image of greatness. And that's not an exaggeration. But we're asleep at the wheel. We're the ones to blame for what's transpiring now, for not ascending of the mind. And in Matthew 11:44 and 11:45, it says, "Woe unto you lawyers, for you lay men with burdens grievous to be borne, yet ye yourself not touch them with thine own finger." All right? There's a lot of power in that Bible, ladies and gentlemen, when you start studying this. And it will give you the ability to stand with conviction. And realize this. I tell people all the time with the state assemblies, know this, 50, 60, 70 people ain't going to go into the courtroom with you. You're going to be the only one being tested by the trial and fire that's at your feet at that time. And there'll only be one other with you, and that'll be the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and the Heavenly Father and the Holy Spirit, all wrapped up into one mind, body, spirit, and soul. So when you speak with conviction, because 99.9% of you are not criminals, all right? You've just been led to believe that some statute, code, city ordinance, or provision applies to you and somehow justifies them stealing from you the food that you were going to give your little Nina, the food you were going to give your dog, your labor, your memories. Think about this. If they steal $100 from you, how much you make an hour? You make $25 an hour? You lost 4 hours of your life that you could have been spending with your daughter, your mother, your father. You could have been fishing. You could have been creating memories. That's 4 hours they stole from you. Let me tell you something that's absolutely priceless. That's your time. So it's time to get learned. Join me at selfgovernanceu.com. I appreciate all the support. Remember, none of this is possible without each and every one of you. None of it is. I learn from everybody. And the things that you guys are going through, I've either been there or I experience it with you as you convey it to me. So I really appreciate all your support and sharing the knowledge. Some of the knowledge I have is just amazing that gets sent to me from firsthand experience in courtrooms, all right? So thanks again for joining me, and we'll talk to you real soon.